name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one Amen. I'm not expecting a big crowd today, but it's a long weekend. A lot of people are traveling. احنا بس يعني عادي. We're gonna do it. We have a very good topic in mind. Right. The topic that we're gonna talk about, it's either affected you or will affect you. 100%. 100%. It's either you are in the topic, your situation, you are living what we're going to talk about now, or you had something before, or it will happen to you later. No one on earth does not go through the dilemma that we're going to talk about today. Anybody knows what's the topic today? What?
Is it the last watch?
Jesus walks on the water.
Is it faith?
Faith.
Trust.
Trust. ايه يعني ايه يا مايكل؟
Guys, timing.
God's timing. Okay. Something called the last watch.
That's what you said.
Okay. What is the last watch? الهزيع الرابع. What does it mean? Anybody knows? The last watch? No? الهزيع الرابع? No?
Yeah, it's the last hour in the night.
The last hour of the night. Very good. So, the Jewish calendar used to divide the day, the 24-hour days, into 12 hours. Okay? From sunset to sunrise and from sunrise to sunset. 12 hours. The evening hours, or these 12 hours were divided into watches. First watch, second watch, third watch, and fourth watch. So you can have the first watch of the morning or the first watch of the evening. Second watch of the morning and second watch of the evening. Fourth watch of the morning and fourth watch of the evening. The fourth watch of the evening or of the night is from about 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning. So that's late in the night. That's the literal meaning of the last watch. Okay, الهزيع الرابع. It's the last period of the night, from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning. But the last watch has a spiritual meaning. And this is the story that we're going to read right now. When Jesus came to the disciples in the last watch. يعني he came what? In the beginning? Well, at the end? At the end. And that's the biggest dilemma that happens in our life. That in many circumstances, practically speaking, Jesus and God comes in the last watch. When things get worse, when it cannot get even worse than that, when مش في حاجة بتقول when it rains it showers or it pours. When it pours, Jesus comes when it pours. Why? Why the last watch? Why he doesn't come in the beginning? Why he has to wait 9 hours in order to come and save the disciples, as we're gonna read now? That's what we're gonna try to discuss now. We want to know two things. There is two big issues that we're going to discuss. Issue number one, why waves? Why tribulation? And we're going to read again, this passage speaks very well about what we're going to talk about. Why there are waves in our life, and why when God tries to save me, he comes at the last minute. And that's a very difficult topic, by the way. Yani, we can talk about it very easy. Like practically, everyone is very impatient to wait for God's timing, as Sarah said in the beginning. Because he usually comes at the end. I don't know how many of us have experienced that. I have experienced it in my life. And let me tell you this. It's either you have experienced it, or you are experiencing it now, or definitely you will experience it later on. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to read this passage, and I'm going to ask you a couple of questions based on this passage, okay? But at least now we know what does it mean, the last watch. Okay? Literally, it means the last period of the night, from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning. Spiritually means that when God comes in rescue, He usually comes late. Or balash late, at the end. Late is not the right word. He comes in the last watch. He waits in order for Him to come. So I need someone to read, please, for me. This is Taman. It's a very famous. We know the story, but I'm going to read it because there is a couple of points that I want to make from the passage itself. So who's going to read for us? Jesus walks on the water. Go ahead, Imar, please. So تعالي بس.
Immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to Bethsaida, while he dismissed the crowd. After leaving them, he went up on a mountainside to pray.
Okay, let me just give you an idea so we can know what's going on. Before that, he has fed the multitude. So when he says that while he dismissed the crowd, he fed the multitude, he dismissed the crowd, and then this story happened. We read this in John 6. John 6 has this event. This story, by the way, or this event, it's present in Matthew, Mark, and John. Okay, and it's beautiful because and I want you to learn that's on tangent كده. Especially when we study the Gospels, try to put the stories together so that you can have a bigger picture and a better picture of what's going on. Like in order just for us to understand why he dismissed the crowd, before that he was feeding the multitude. Go ahead, Mark, please. Later
that night, the boat was in the middle of the lake, and he was alone on the land. He saw the disciples straining at the oars because the wind was against them. Shortly before dawn, he went out to them, walking on the lake. He was about to pass by them, but when they saw him walking on the lake, they thought he was a ghost. They cried out because they all saw him and were terrified. Immediately he spoke to them and said, "Take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid." Then he climbed into the boat with them, and the wind died down. They were completely amazed, for they had not understood about the loaves. Their hearts were hardened.
Thank you. I'm gonna read one verse from Matthew 4 because here I picked Mark specifically for a certain reason. Like I'm gonna read it for you from Matthew because of it. I want to tell you where is the fourth watch is coming from. The expression fourth watch is coming from. So the same story, Jesus walking on the water from Matthew 14, verse 24. He says, "But the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary. Now in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went to them." Again, in order for us to understand what Matthew is saying, I said that there is night and morning, and there is first watch of morning and first watch of night, and fourth watch in the morning and fourth watch in the night. So Matthew here, Mark here is saying about shortly before dawn, which is, again, I said about 3 to 6 o'clock in the morning. Matthew speaks about it as the fourth watch of the night. So that's the last part of the night. I just want you to understand where the title, the fourth watch, is coming from. So after Jesus fed the multitude, he is walking on the water. I'm going to read verse 1, and I want you to tell me something strange in this verse. Immediately, Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go on ahead to him to Bethsaida. Well, while he dismissed the crowd, after leaving them, he went up on a mountain to pray. And then, what happened to the disciples is that they went on the lake, and the wind was strong and the waves were high. In these two verses, 45 and 46, What is strange here, guys? Anton.
Why didn't he pray? Like, why didn't they go with him to pray? Like, why didn't they have
Very good. Why he didn't go with them? So, انتم متخيلين? He fed the multitude, he dismissed the multitude, he let the disciples go, and then he went up to pray. Isn't it a little bit strange that he left the disciples by themselves, knowing that what? Knowing what? Knowing that the storm is going to come. It's very strange, right? You know that the storm is going to come, so at least be with the disciples. Lakin, he went up to pray. That's one thing, absolutely. Anton is absolutely correct. One more thing in the verse 45. Immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to Bethsaida. What's the feeling that you are getting? Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him.
He's leading them into the boat right before the storm is about to happen.
He is what?
He's leading them to
The word is what?
Me.
Made them. Made his disciples get. The Arabic is very strong. And I'm sorry I'm going to use the Arabic because the Arabic is really very strong and I'm going to try to explain that. The Arabic for made his disciples get into the water is al-zaman. You know when yulzim is like to oblige. Yani the literal translation would be he forced them, he obliged them to go, to get into the boat. Yulzim, yani when there is a difference between I ask Sarah to do something and I yulzim Sarah to do something. Yulzim has a more urge that she has to do, yani she has to. The professor yulzimak that you have to study up. It's fiha a kind of positive enforcement that you have to do it. Which is translated here made, which I feel it's a little bit weaker word, like in the Arabic word is very strong. Yulzim, he obliged them to go into the boat. If we put these two things together, that he obliged them or he made his disciples get into the boat, and he, instead of going with them, he went on a mountain to pray. What's the impression that you get? God left. For whatever reason, God intentionally is doing that. God intentionally is doing that. I don't know if he left them wala la, lakin he wanted this, he allowed this to happen. And that's something very important to understand. Taman, for a reason. When we read the rest of the story, we're going to find the reason why he did that. Like I think a very important point from this story is the idea that God allowed this to happen. God wanted this to happen. God made the disciples go into the boat, knowing that the storm is coming. And this point is very important, that when I am in a storm, God knows about it and He wants it. He allows it. He wants or He allows me to get into the boat. This point is very important. That God, in His wisdom, in His love, He allows me to go through troubles. So troubles don't happen in my life just get out of nothing. Troubles in the life of a believer happens for a reason. And God obliged me to go through that trouble. We always think of troubles as something to avoid. Like in here, troubles were forced onto the disciples for a reason. A concept that is very important. And Tawan is very strange because when we think of God, we think of Him like, oh, He's a loving God, He's not going to allow me to go into tribulation. A loving God in our mind will not allow me to go into tribulation. لكن هنا in this story he allowed it, he wanted it for a reason. Any question in this part? طبعا the big question that we're going to discuss now is why he allows it. Why he allows me to go into troubles. Why he allows me to go into tribulation. Is this point clear from the passage? That he obliged them, he forced them, he made them go into the disciples and he went out to pray. Okay? طبعا another point here خليها بعدين we'll talk about it later. Is this idea clear, guys? That when tribulations happen in my life, it's not haphazard. It's not because God has left me. It's not because God is not caring about me. It's not. Like he allows it for a reason. And I'm talking about any tribulations, any problem that happened in my life. And knowing you guys, everyone here has went through a kind of problem. Whether something, a career maybe that you could not make it, whether a relationship that did not happen, whether a loss of a friend or loss of a loved one, or maybe sickness or whatever, or a loss of a job, yani whatever problem happened. And again, I said in the very beginning, it's either you went through it, or you are going through it, or you will go through it. Waves are going to happen in our life. Our life, yani sorry to tell you this, that's why I have to tell you this. Things usually don't get better. معلش sorry يعني كل ما بنكبر things get worse. And that's why when you get older, you need to get strong. When you get older, you need to get strong, because you're going to be faced with things that probably when you were young, you did not face. You did not have a problem with MCAT or GRE or career or relationships. When you are in high school, you have a problem with drugs and حاجات كده. Like you did not really have the real problems in life. And I'm sorry again to convey this to you. The more you grow up, the more you're going to be faced with problems in your life. And that's why when I grow up, I need to become strong. And I heard something very beautiful yesterday from Abuna Anthony Msiha. And he was saying that you cannot be stronger unless you are challenged. You're not going to be stronger unless you are challenged. And he gave the example of people who go to the gym. You want to be stronger, you have to do 20 push-ups. Okay? You want to be even stronger, you have to do 22 push-ups. And then 24 push-ups. And then 20, and then نشيل حديد. And then معرفش أعمل إيه. يعني in order for you to continue to be stronger, you need to be challenged. And if you agree with me that life is not going to get easier, but life, بلاش better, يمكن easier is the right word, but life is going to get harder, you need to be strong. And in order to be stronger, you need to be challenged. And the way to be challenged is to face tribulation. Again, the simple answer, or the answer for why tribulations in my life, because this is the way I'm going to go. This is how I'm going to get strong. And I need to get strong. Even in tribulations, even in difficulties, even in suffering, the things that God allows in my life will make me stronger. And you need to be stronger because you are getting older. You're not getting older, like you are getting old, one day older than yesterday. Okay? And again, maybe when you were in high school or elementary, your only problem is ده ضربني وده اخذ مسطرتي وده ما اعرفش عمل ايه. Okay? Like when we grow up, we really face hurt in relationship, we really face sickness, we really face maybe loss of someone that we love, maybe a career that I'm not able to get, maybe a school that I'm not able to get into. You really start facing real difficulties. That's why when you get older, you need to become stronger. And the way to become stronger is to be challenged. And the way to be challenged is to face tribulation. I want to hear your opinion about this statement that I just made. That tribulations are allowed by God in our life to make me stronger, to face the tribulations of life. I am right.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
How do you know whether it's a trial that's given to you by God to make you stronger, or maybe if it's just something that it's out of like a consequence that you did? For example, like the easiest thing that I could think of is like studying, right? You could say, I didn't make this career path or whatever, and God has a plan for me, or I didn't make it because maybe if I just studied a little bit harder, or so.
Very good. Okay, very difficult question. What do you think, guys?
I don't know, I feel like you would know the difference. Because if you know you didn't study hard enough and you didn't do well, then you know that it's already on you and it's not something that God put in front of you. If you studied more than you could have ever thought you could have studied and you didn't do well, then maybe that was God's way of saying, this isn't for you.
Right.
But if you know you could have studied harder, like you instead of like 1 hour at night before bed, and then you wonder why you don't do good, that's one thing. But if you studied from morning to night every day for weeks on end, you did everything and it still didn't come towards your way, then that's an obstacle that God is giving you.
So basically what Tanina is saying, is that there is synergism. We know about the synergism principle in Christianity. You do your part, God does his part. So if you study hard, if you do your part, you fail, you are not able to get into law school because and you studied hard, hey, that's going to make you stronger. You're going to learn from it. Okay? You did not study and you are partying and you are going out with your friends. You cannot say that. You cannot say that I did not get into law school because that's God's will. God's will, you have to do your part. So that's an important part that Elena mentioned. Anton and then Marie.
I just wanted to add to what she was saying is that like sometimes when you study, you usually study the same material, or you generally like what your problem is and you focus on that, and sometimes it might not be on the test. So like just the general advice is that like regardless of how much hours you study, you usually focus on one topic, and sometimes it's not even on the test. So it's not like you can't do anything better to do. So it's whether or not like what you study, what you focus on is the right thing or not.
Okay.
Just general advice.
That's regarding study.
I don't know how accurate this is, but I was told once that I don't know. Maybe this is probably for stuff that's not studying and stuff that's more out of our control that we really can't handle because like the story they were forced to do something. So I think I was told that the devil or God has to allow the devil to do something.
Right.
So like nothing happens to you that doesn't get approved by God basically. So I think in that sense like everything that happens to us that we really don't have control over, I think comes from God, but it's the way we handle it that determines which path we choose.
Because God is in control. And even this concept is very clear in the story of Job. The devil could not tempt Job except after he took permission from God and to a certain level that God allowed this to happen. Okay? So God will allow things to happen in my life. I think the point here is just do your part. When you do your part, you know that the result is according to God's will. Okay? Lekin. And that's again the beauty of God. Even if you mess up, God is a wonderful GPS that's gonna make you rerouting, and He's gonna take you back to where you should go. For it, and this is beautiful, guys. Say you mess up, you did not study and you fail. Okay? The beauty of God, if really I'm a believer, if I'm really a son of God, and what I mean by a believer and a son of God, it's not like, hey, I come on Sunday, I have communion and leave. That's not the son of God. A son of God is someone who really have a relationship with God on a daily basis. Every day, I'm living with God. I'm not schizophrenic. I'm not in church on Sunday in one shape and outside in a different shape. No, I am a son of God. I'm a believer. I live with Him 24/7. That doesn't mean I'm sinless. Lekin, I live with Him. Okay? For a son of God, even if you mess up, the beauty of God is that He's going to take you, He's going to do something, He's going to reroute you and do something beautiful out of it. It doesn't matter if you're going to be a lawyer, or you're going to be a pharmacist, or you're going to be a dentist, or you're going to be a nurse, or you're going to be a PA, or you're going to be an accountant. It doesn't matter. He's going to make something beautiful out of your life. Marina and then Mark, and then I want to move on.
I think another big problem is we don't really know what the end goal is. Like, yeah, heaven, but we don't see it. We can't really tell. Like, if we take an exam, we know that this is going to get us to this school. But I think it's very hard for us to see what heaven is or see what being with God is. So I think that's another kind of block in the road
Right.
in terms of this. So I don't know.
Mark?
I was gonna say, I think, like, I agree with what you said. God doesn't care if you're gonna become a lawyer or this or that, as long as you're glorifying Him through whatever it is that you're doing. But I think it's very cut and dry when it comes to tests. I mean, taking a test can be very convicting. You know, you take the answer of a test and you don't know it, and you're like, oh man, this is the part that I didn't study at all, or oh man, I should have studied this more. And then next time, it gives you that strength, as you said. It helps make you stronger, and then you're like, okay, I'm not going to slack in this place or in that place. So, I mean, I think in that specifically, maybe it's very tough.
So I hope we agree. The first point is that tribulations, difficulties, even if I'm hurt, say I'm in a relationship and the relationship did not work. This relationship is gonna make me stronger if I am a believer. If I'm really the son of God, it's gonna make me stronger. It's gonna teach me more about myself. It's gonna teach me more the next time I get into a relationship, how to deal with it, what to look for. It's gonna make you, and God is so beautiful that even in tribulation, He's gonna heal me. When? That's a different story. And that's what we're gonna talk about later on in the last 5 minutes. Like, the point that I wanted to be clear is that the goal of tribulation is to make me stronger. Because in order to be stronger, you need to be challenged. And the way to be challenged is to go through difficulties. تعرفين أبونا أنطونيوس دايما has a quote كده, he always says it to the engaged couples. When they go for counseling, بيقول لهم how is life? Everything is very good. You know what's his response? Go fight, and when you fight, come back to me, and then we can proceed. You know why? Because you're gonna fight. When you get married, you're gonna fight. And it's very important to know how you're gonna deal with fights before you get married. Because maybe I'm an angry person, أقوم أديها بالقلم because I'm fighting. طبعا أنا طول ما الدنيا حلوة, I'm a peaceful guy. لكن when there is a disagreement, you're gonna see different Samir. So you don't know how is this different Samir. So the point that I wanna make, I'm just giving you a break from the serious talk. The point that I want to make, in difficulties make you stronger. It's gonna tell something about you. It's gonna shape you. So please don't be upset at God or blame God when you go through some hardship or you go through tribulation. It's gonna make you stronger. and you need to be strong because you're growing up, and when you grow up, you're gonna be faced with more difficulties. Is this point clear, guys? Right. So we spoke about two things now. We spoke about the meaning of the last watch or the fourth watch, and we spoke about why he made them or he obliged them and he went to pray. Okay. The third point that I wanna get from this is the reaction of the disciples when the wave was strong and the wind was strong. What was their reaction? They what? In Matthew verse 26, it says, they were troubled, saying it's a ghost, and they cried out for fear. So what's the reaction? They got scared. They were troubled and they cried out for fear. هنا verse 50, because they all saw him and were terrified. Okay? So the idea of being scared or being troubled or crying out for fear when I'm faced with tribulation is okay or not okay? Is okay. Is okay. يعني I don't think God is expecting me to go through tribulation, the death of someone close to me, and be laughing. He's going to understand that I'm upset. He's going to understand that I'm tearful.
I think regardless of where you are in your life, he's going to bring you to that point where you are scared. So he can save you out of that tribulation so you can rely on him. So it may be different for everyone, but he'll bring you to that point of fear where you kind of have no choice but to rely on him.
Absolutely. And that's the whole point of the story, by the way. And we're going to see that at the end. لكن اللي عايز اقوله انه if you are upset, if you are scared, if you are worried, it's okay, guys. It's okay to feel terrified. It's okay to feel troubled. It's okay. يعني God, if I'm in tribulation, God's not expecting me to be happy because I'm in the tribulation. It's a normal feeling that comes out to be troubled. And God understands this. And maybe, as Mina said, He is allowing it to happen so that you can see the glory of God later on. Amen.
What if you're tired of waiting?
نعم.
If you're tired of waiting.
هنتكلم على موضوع الويتنج ده in 1 minute. That's the last one. So the first point, I'm going to move a little bit faster. The first point is the meaning of the last watch, spiritually and literally. The second point is tribulation makes me stronger, and you need to be stronger because you are growing up. And the way you get stronger is to be challenged. And the way you're going to be challenged is through tribulation. You see how beautifully interrelated to each other. The third point is, if you are troubled or you are fearful because you are in tribulation, it's okay. Just, I'm going to tell you what to do with this fear when we continue. Sam.
Okay, I have a question. So you're saying that God is making us go through all this struggle and everything because He wants us to be stronger, right?
Right.
So there's always like a period of silence. Like He doesn't, He let you go through it. You know what I mean? Like He doesn't say anything. Like there is, like you said, He went to the mountain and started praying, and He left the disciples to go to the mountain, to the boy. So why does He do that? Like why does He? There's always.
That's the same question as Maria.
I was saying why do the wait? Like,
Why? That's the same question as you, no?
That's not waiting. No, I
Oh
mean.
my.
He's.
Why He allowed it?
No.
She's asking why he gives us breaks in between.
Yeah, like why He's not telling you why, or like why He's
Why
not
that's-
responding.
Why He?
Like He's not responding. Or giving
Well,
you-
Wow,
in
that's
the
the same
waiting-
question.
In the waiting, there is silence, so I guess it could be
Exactly. There's
waiting.
silence. Like why there's silence?
That's how. That's the topic بتاعنا. احنا لسه ما كناش في الtopic. This is just an introduction. I agree.
I was going to say in the example of, when Lazarus died and he tells his disciples, I thank God for your sake that I wasn't there. I think So he was saying in the same way, like, I'm thankful that you kind of get filled with that fear, or
مينا افتكروا الكلام اللي قاله مينا ده because I just want to be a little bit I don't want to jump points. I have them يعني clear in my mind, so I just want to go through that because that's going to answer Marina and Sandra's question, and it's going to answer the idea of why the last watch. And I really don't know if I have an answer for this, لكن we're going to discuss it together. لكن خلينا نgo يعني systematically with the story. So it's okay, guys, to feel troubled. It's okay to be feared. When it's okay to feel sad when you lose something, or you don't do well in the exam, or you, God forbid, you fail it. It's okay. He knows that that's a normal reaction. Okay. The solution is very beautiful. What is the solution? When he came, هتكلم على last watch ده and why the last watch, the last thing. Before that, he came walking and very strange in verse 48. Let's read verse 48 together. He saw the disciples straining at the oars because the wind was against them. Shortly before dawn, he went out to them walking on the lake. He was about to pass by them. يعني to pass by them. English. ولا أقول in Arabic. ها؟ يعني I'm going to Tenina, okay? And instead of going to Tenina, I'm passing by them. That's exactly what Jesus did. The Arabic is أراد أن يتجاوزهم. يعني he wanted to pass them.
But why? They're in trouble.
Oh,
You know.
that's the whole point. That's the whole point, and that's the beauty of the miracle. And isn't that exactly what happens in our life? Isn't that exactly what happens in our life? I'm in tribulation, and tomorrow I'm in tribulation, and after tomorrow I'm in the same tribulation. Practically speaking, that's exactly what happens in our life. And the topic today is to find out why this is happening in our life. Mark.
I think, like, it's because whenever we have something in our lives that's like constantly there, what happens when we lose value to it? We don't see the need or the purpose of it, and eventually it just becomes like any other thing. So God leading us to go into tribulation is kind of like a reminder that, hey, you need me, be dependent on
The
me.
question, let's discuss this now, please. The discussion is going through that one. The question is not why tribulation. We finished the question of why tribulation. Now we are discussing why late, why wait, why he wanted to pass by them as if they're okay. Why the last watch? Why Jesus, when he comes to save me, he comes to save me in the last watch? Why he waits 3 watch? Why he waited? The story that Mina was mentioned in the story of Lazarus is a perfect example for that. Lazarus, they went and tell him, hey, your friend Lazarus is sick. But the Bible says what, Adrian? But the Bible says what? Says he stayed there 2 days. طب روح الحق. ده your beloved one. ده اللي انت بتحبه. Go and heal him. That's what makes sense. What makes sense, and if you read the story of Lazarus in John 11, it's an amazing story, by the way. It's really an amazing story. So people went to Jesus and tell him, the one that you love is sick. So المفروض يعمل ايه؟ يجري يروح يلحقه قبل ما يموت. Right? لكن he didn't do that. He stayed there 2 days. لغاية لما راح, when he went there, he has been dead for 4 days. And the question that we are discussing now, I want you to understand the question so we know what to answer. The question is not why the tribulation. We are not discussing why he died. We are discussing why he waited 2 days. He could have come earlier and saved him from death, okay, and heal him. He could have, instead of passing by them, he could have gone to them. And instead of going into the fourth watch, he could have gone into the first watch and solved the problem immediately after it happened. Why? Practically and spiritually, and this is what's going on here, why God comes late. I'm putting it, زمان كنت بعمل كده. Why he comes late? طبعا he never comes late. لكن why, in our opinion, why the problem stays in my lab month, maybe even years? I want to hear you guys. I heard already Nina and Mark about the same point. Go ahead, Carla.
Clara.
Carla.
I'm not sure if this is right, but if he fixes everything right away, you don't have enough time to get challenged into future
Excellent.
tribulation.
Very good. احنا قلنا the goal of the tribulation is to get stronger, and the way to get stronger is to be challenged. So maybe when he waits, you are challenged. If I have a problem now, and the problem is solved now, I don't think I'm challenged. Excellent point. Sylvia.
I'm going to give sort of an analogy. Sometimes when you're raising children, in the beginning when they're infants, you have to anticipate their needs because they just don't have the ability to ask you what they want. But as they grow older, you have to pull back from giving them everything that they want and being ready to give them whatever they need, whether it be food or whatever. You have to first let them, first of all, teach them speech and to let them ask the question, let them formulate the question, let them say it out loud, let them try to figure it out themselves, and then give them what they need.
Is that against his law?
No, this is so that
It's
they
not against his law.
and so that they know what they're capable of, and so that they ask for what they
Because you're growing up. Absolutely. Absolutely. And maybe when I'm a small baby in my spiritual life, he would come immediately. Because I cannot stand, I cannot. If I wait, I might get lost. Like when I grow up, he might deal with me different. Very good. What else? Mark.
This is just to add on to, maybe he's showing you that nothing is impossible with him because he's grabbing you out of the pit from the worst.
This point is very clear in the story of ladders. Is it stronger for him, if the word stronger is right, if it's, let me put it this way, for the people who are in the house of ladders, is it more, I want to use the right word, is it more impressive maybe to heal him or to raise him? To raise him. So when the problem is really big, when the problem is really big, I see his power more. Like when the problem is maybe small, hey, whatever, يعني ده حاجة بسيطة كده, anybody can do this miracle or anybody can solve this issue. Like when the problem gets really serious, it's God. What else?
I just have a comment on what Sassy said. So she was saying that to raise the kids, she let them like do whatever they want for a while and then like pull back a little bit. But as soon as the mom sees that the kid actually fell and they hurt themselves, she will be there. Like she won't wait until like.
Did he do that here?
You said that he passed by them.
He was good.
Yeah,
So
that's
he
right.
passed by them.
بس did they get drunk يعني غيره؟
ما غلطوش بس هما they were on like they.
ده بيتر لما ابتدى يمشي وشك, he stretched his arm. He will never do that. لكن they will become strong. It's part of the waiting. This idea of passing by. I just want to prove the point that I want to make. And he passes by because he waits. He waits to the last watch. And that's exactly what happens. لكن he will never let Peter or any of his disciples or any of his kids drown, right? Drown. Mark.
I was just gonna say he passed by, but he let himself be seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
like he could have went on the other side.
It's just the way this passing by, it's just a way to emphasize the idea of the last watch. Anything else, guys? So we said that there are reasons. It makes you stronger when you wait. Okay? It shows the almightiness of God when He waits. Romani. And then Anton.
It gets you deeper with the relationship with God.
Absolutely. It gets you deeper in the relationship with God. لأنه again, if I see God saving me from sickness, it's different than when I see God saving me from death. And that's exactly what happened in the story of Lazarus. He waited 2 days. Although the Bible is very clear, that's for you, Yasandra, that he loved Lazarus. He loved Lazarus. He loved him. And he waited. He loved أحبه كان يسوع يحبه and he waited. استنى يومين في المكان. Okay? So the wait to solve the problem is not against his love. بالعكس, that because he loves you very much, he's gonna wait, like at the same time, he's watching over you. So you don't drown. Anton, Marina, and me.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate and say, what if he gives you everything the minute that you have it, right? Like, say you have a problem right now and solves it the next second. The problem is it won't challenge you at all.
Absolutely.
There's no
Absolutely.
and you would know, tell a person that deals with this problem this way. Like, I'm a patient person. I know I'm very calm when dealing with problems. Other people get angry. So it's
I'm gonna put this point that Anton mentioned with the point that Romani mentioned. If there is a problem today, I'm on my knees today. If there is a problem tomorrow, if the problem continues tomorrow, I'm on my knees tomorrow. If the problem is solved, I'm what? I'm not on my knees. And maybe God wants me on my knees. That's why the problem continues. I'm going to tell you a real story that happened and it really touched me very much. 1 week after April 1st. April 1st is what? April Fool's Days. April Fool's Days. No day. One person that I know from, not from here, from Manhattan Church, he works in a big company and he wanted to make a joke because of April 1st على الباص بتاعه. فقال له, this is the real story. فقال له حاجه related بالcompany that's gonna go ما اعرفش الستافس بتاعها هيجرى له ايه وبتاع. Who heard this conversation? The CEO of the company. He came 1 week after that, and I was in Manhattan on that day. This is real story, guys. Shaking, oh, please pray for me. I did a stupid mistake. I don't know what to do. The only thing we can do is pray, and we'll see what's gonna happen. And we prayed 1 week, texted him, any update? No update. Still another week, any news? I'm still there. الغاية 100 ماي. كل ده وهو بيعمل ايه؟ بيصلي. Of course, he's on his knees every day to pray. Once the problem is solved, what happened? خلاص the problem, he is in his job, ما حصلش حاجة, I don't know what happened, nothing happened to him. He's still at his job, same position, nothing happened to him. Like once the problem is solved, what happens? Prayer stops. And I think one of the main reasons why he comes in the last watch is to make me continuously in a relationship with him. Is it fair? Yes, it is fair. Because my relationship with him is more important than the problem being solved now. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think sometimes the issue is your goal. If your goal is simply to get out of the problem, then it makes the weight very visible. But if your goal is to strengthen your relationship with God, you kind of really don't see individual problem by problem. It's just simply just life.
Right.
You understand what I mean? So I think in regards to the how you always have to be on you, I kind of a little bit disagree with that, because I think if you're able to come to a point where God has no reason to keep you on your knees. If you're on your knees out of like gratitude and out of so I don't think sometimes you don't have to be in tribulation your whole life.
I think the point of being on your knees is not necessarily to get out of the tribulation. Taban, we need to be on our knees for Thanksgiving, for not, and that's the problem. That we are only our knees when there are problems. Like maybe when I learn how to pray because I'm in a problem, maybe that will develop and continue into a Thanksgiving prayer after that, even after the problem is solved. And I think that's absolutely correct, and I agree with this 100%. Like sometimes I'm not gonna get closer to Him except or unless something difficult happens in my life. وعارفين what is really sad, because يعني I'm close to most of you here. Instead of getting on my knees, I get closer to God. And that's very sad. I start doing what? Blaming Him. And some people cannot even see, مش عايز أقول the beauty of the tribulation, لكن that what's happening in my life now is a reason for me to enjoy God's presence in my life. And instead, I start blaming God. And that's it. And that happens. Like that's a choice. It's a choice for people to decide. If you want to use the tribulation to get stronger and closer, well, I want to use the tribulation to blame Him and stay away from Him. And I heard this comment last week from someone, nothing is going right in my life. Why would I live with Him? Instead of seeing why nothing is going right in my life, and maybe that would make me get on my knees, I start blaming God and say, why He's doing that in my life? Where is He in my life? George?
Just to spin off other people's questions. My question is, why do we feel sometimes abandoned? Is that some?
It's not abandonment.
No,
it's
know,
a weight.
No, but I know in our weight sometimes we feel like God's not there at all, and I know He's not. He doesn't abandon us. So I'm asking: does He make us feel abandoned, or do we make ourselves feel?
That's the devil who makes you feel abandoned. The devil is just here to use these circumstances to make you further. That's his rule, and he is very good at that. And you are in a pit, and you don't know what to do, and he plays with your mind, and he makes you feel that he passed by you, that he's abandoning you. That where is he? And that's exactly the comment that I heard last week. Everything is wrong. Are you serious? Everything is wrong in your life. مش حاجة خالص حلوة in your life. Is that يعني a reasonable comment? Everything is wrong in my life. Tinina, Sylvia, Sandra, Joseph, and then I really want to close. I still have one point. I'm going to finish with this verse. That's I want you to.
To kind of go with what you're talking about right now, I've heard people over the years, oh, this and this and this is wrong, God just hates me. If you really truly believed in God in the first place, you would know that that wasn't true. So it's definitely, it's someone else taking your attention away and making you believe something else.
It's the devil. The devil uses your situation to make you blame God, and that's exactly what happens in the Garden of Eden. Joseph, sorry, Sylvia Howard, ladies first. Go ahead. Sylvia has a problem,
To answer your question, I don't think more so than the devil. I think that it's just a human limitation that we just like we're very we rely a lot on our feelings and our emotions. Like, oh, I went to liturgy today, but I didn't feel God. Or like, oh, concerning like relationships, like, oh, I just was like I got tired of this person, or I don't think I love them anymore, or something like that. Like we say these, we base our decisions and our thoughts on these like very flimsy like emotions that come and go. So we feel abandoned or whatever, but we're not sticking through the pain. We're not working hard through whether or not we feel like doing something today or not. So those are those feelings.
Thank you. Jose?
So adding on to what she said and rephrasing what the question was, you could think about, because you mentioned it, Job. So I feel like what you said was true, only because if you think about it, what was the devil's goal in bringing about all the tribulations on Job? To make him feel abandoned, to make him blame God. And because of that, I feel like it is our desire again to be attached to someone, to have someone taking care of us, but it's also like the devil's goal is to make us feel abandoned.
Thank you. Anybody else? Romani, آخر واحد.
I once asked the same question that George asked, and someone answered with a story, like a short story. He said there was a guy who made an agreement with God that all the time God would hold his hand. And there came a time where that guy went through like a lot of trials. So he came to God and he asked him, he looked back behind him first and he saw only his footsteps. So he asked God, why did you leave me? I only saw my footsteps, where did you go? So God looked at him and said, you only saw one person's footsteps because I was holding you on my arms. So all the time I was lifting you on my arms, therefore you did not walk by yourself.
That's a beautiful poem. I hope people know this. At the time of tribulation, I was not holding your hand, but I was what? Type. I'm gonna finish with this verse. I'm gonna finish with this verse in verse 50, and this is the verse that I want to leave with you guys. Because they all saw him and were terrified, immediately. It was the last watch. It was the last watch. Like when things got back very, 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 very serious, immediately. فاهمين ازاي؟ يعني he waited to the last watch to come to save them. Okay, and he even wanted to pass by them. Like when things back got serious, immediately he spoke to them and said, take courage. It is I, don't be afraid. And that's the core verse, guys, in this whole story. Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid. In Arabic, it says, لا تخافوا أنا هو تشجعوا أنا هو لا تخافوا. تشجعوا is take courage, it is I, أنا هو, don't be afraid, لا تخافوا. And there is a beautiful relationship between these three parts of the verse. Take courage. On what basis I'm going to take courage? On what basis أنا هتشجع? On what basis I'm going to have courage? Because of what? From the verse. Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. It is I. أنا هو. أنتوا خايفين ليه? Why you are afraid? أنا هو. عارفين أنا هو دي? I am ego eimi in Greek. That's the name of God. In the Old Testament, in Exodus, when Moses told God, when they asked me, what's your name? قال له أحيا الذي أحيا. I am who I am. I am. I'm the being. I am. So the reason I'm going to take courage is because He is. He is I am. And the result, when I know that He is I am, I'm not going to be afraid. It's so beautiful, the relationship between the three parts. The reason why I'm going to have courage is because He is. He is God. He is the loving, He is the Almighty One. Even if I have to wait, He is God. And because He is, I'm not going to be afraid. Let me finish with this. I cannot tell you it's easy to wait. And I cannot even tell you, with all this beautiful discussion that we had, that I can come and tell you why He comes in the last watch. We are trying to bring reasons to say why He comes in the last watch. Like in many situations, I'll still not be able to find out the reason. Why? Sometimes the answer is what? I don't know. Like even if I don't know why he is coming in the last watch, why I have to wait, why he doesn't come until things gets very bad, is because he is. And I'm not going to be afraid. And concept that I'm trying to explain it for years now. And I really hope that you guys can learn this concept. And my faith, my trust, someone I met with him said the idea of trust, the idea of faith. My trust is based on his time. Is based on who he is. It's not based on is he late or not. Even if he is late, he is not going to change. He loves me, he is the Almighty, he is the most amazing God. And that's why, because I trust him and I trust in his timing, I'm not going to be worried. Even if I feel troubled, I'm not going to be afraid. Even if خدوا بالكم انه Jesus did not calm down the storm before Peter started walking on the storm. Peter walked on the storm and then he started getting worried. Okay? So regardless of the solution, the problem is solved or not. Sometimes we only wait for God to solve the problem. Regardless if the problem is solved or not. I trust in him. And he's telling me, do not be afraid. Whether you understand why he makes me wait, whether you understand or you don't understand why he's making me wait, he is he. And that's the trust, that's the faith, that I trust in him. And he's telling me, Habibi, don't be afraid. I'm gonna come. Many times I come in the last watch. Whether you understand or you don't understand why I'm coming in the last watch, I'm coming. Amen.
One more thing, I think Christianity sometimes we're always very self-aware, so we always think, how is God trying to help me? So sometimes it's not about you. Like in Lazarus' case, had nothing to do with Lazarus dying and being raised from the dead for Lazarus. It was for everyone else around him. So sometimes we may suffer tribulation for a long time based on the people that are around us, so they can believe in us.
Absolutely. And that's the Bible speaks about the persecution in the early church. And after persecution happened, what happened? People spread everywhere. And because people spread everywhere, what happened? They start preaching the gospel everywhere. الذين اضطهدوا كانوا مبشرين بالكلمة. So even my tribulation definitely can affect other people. And we see that, by the way. طبعا احنا كلنا perfect في الفيسبوك بتاع. There was a girl مش فاكر اسمها ايه؟ حد فاكر اسمها ايه؟ مش عارفه انا بتكلم على ايه. There was a girl who like 21 years old and she had cancer and passed away from cancer. You don't know Lydia? Okay, thank you. Lydia. And you can't imagine the effect that this girl and her testimony about God had on people. Yeah, why a beautiful 21-year-old girl would die from cancer? It's a huge why. And you want to come and ask me and I'm going to tell you reasons? I don't see any reasons except God using this for other people to know. It's a difficult topic. I hope we were able to touch a little bit on this. We read Mark 6 and it's present also in Matthew 14. It's a beautiful story. Please, ask questions and get troubled and cry out of fear. That's all okay if you are in tribulation. Please always remember that He is He and don't be afraid. Whether you understand why He is late or not, He is always in the right time. Always in the right time. And He will never let Peter drown.